You're listening to the CIP podcast, the Study Abroadcast, Season 3, Episode 6. I'm your host, Jacqueline. In this show, we'll explore the world of study abroad, offering advice, insights, and travel stories, bridging perspectives and cultures along the way. On this episode, we'll be speaking with the University of Guelph student who's completing both an academic term and a co-op term abroad in Ireland. So let's get right into it. Today on our show, we're pleased to welcome Graham. To get started, Graham, can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and your experience abroad?
Would love to, yes. So my name's Graham. I'm a fourth-year marketing management student at the University of Guelph, and I'm currently living in Ireland, having just completed a study abroad semester in Dublin.
What interested you in studying abroad?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So studying abroad was something I've always been interested in completing and doing at the University of Guelph. And as we know, COVID was a thing, so that kind of stopped my ability to do that. So in my fourth year, the opportunity presented itself, and I jumped right at it, and it was a great decision.
Was TU Dublin your first choice, and what attracted you to Ireland?
TU Dublin was not my first choice, but all the choices I had selected were ones that really interested me. And the reason that TU Dublin and Ireland itself interested me was that the fact that my family's from Ireland. And I was really interested in coming back and exploring where I'm from and seeing some of the places where my family lived, grew up.
Yeah, a lot of students think of study abroad as just like a travel experience, but it's true that some students use it to connect like with some of their family heritage or things like that. So it's a great point. And how would you say that the academic system compared between Canada and Ireland?
Yeah, so for the most part, the classes and course content are extremely similar to what we learn in Guelph and in Canada. Some of the differences that I encountered were, for example, the grading system. At my school at TU Dublin, a 40% was the cutoff line in terms of a pass-fail. So the marks that we received were kind of skewed because of that. And then little things in terms of marks getting released, exam schedules, things like that. But for the most part, it's very similar in terms of content, just a couple of minor differences that I encountered.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the grades because I think that's a lot of thing that students also worry about. And one of the nice things when you're studying abroad is that your grades are going to transfer back to your U of G degree as either a pass or a fail. So you have that kind of flexibility as you adapt to a new education system while you're abroad. And so now, since you've completed your academic term abroad, what would you say was one of your main takeaways or best learning moments from that semester?
Yeah, it's a very good question. It's hard to say a specific thing that I encountered because I encountered so many different things. But I would say the biggest thing I encountered in terms of an academic standpoint would be the perspective, just the perspective change, learning from a European perspective. Like I said, I study marketing, so from a European perspective in terms of business, rather from a North American perspective, was probably the most interesting part to me.
Great. And now, I guess you've done something a little bit more unique than most students who study abroad. You've decided to extend your time in Ireland and do a co-op term in Dublin also. So, what made you decide to kind of extend your time there and do this co-op placement internationally?
Yeah, that's a very good question. A co-op term abroad was something that I've always kind of thought of in the back of my head, trying to couple that with a study abroad program. So it was something I was thinking about before I came over. I kind of wanted to wait and see if I really enjoyed Ireland, Europe, things like that before I made like a complete decision. Ended up really, really enjoying Ireland, Europe, and living over here. So I thought I'll take a stab at getting a co-op placement over here, and I was very lucky and privileged to find a position that worked for me. And yeah, it's been great.
So, what exactly are you doing for your co-op term and how did you arrange it?
Yeah, so I'm a events and sales intern at the Westin Dublin, which is a hotel in downtown Dublin. And the way I was able to find this co-op job was simply just emailing the hotel. I did a lot of cold calling, cold emails because I had no connections over here, and was lucky enough for them to be interested in me and my work experience. And started in January, and it's been great.
And did you get much support from like the co-op office at Guelph when you were arranging this or kind of figuring out the logistics of it?
Yeah, so I chatted to them and gave them the update on kind of what I was trying to do, and they, for great reasons, have to focus on people in Guelph because that's their job. So they wished me the best of luck, and I kind of had to just try to do it on my own. And they definitely gave me support and wished me all the best, but it was kind of a solo mission to try to figure it out.
Yeah, and I think sometimes like your study abroad semester maybe prepared you for that process of like being adaptable and saying like, okay, this is what I want to do. And so if I want to make this happen, I'm going to have to send out these cold calls and emails, which can be difficult at times, but I'm glad it worked out.
100%, yeah.
Very cool. So now that you've been working in Ireland for a couple of months, what would you say is the biggest difference between working in Canada and working in Ireland, and how did you adjust to that difference?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I wouldn't say there's anything too glaring in terms of difference because it is an American-owned company. So some of the practices, particularly business practices, are very similar to kind of how we work in North America. And a lot of the clients are American and Canadian actually as well. So there is a lot of overlap. But I would say the biggest thing I've had to deal with in terms of learning experience would be working with uh, more cultures, different languages, as there's a lot of European clients as well. So kind of navigating that was, I wouldn't say difficult, but was an adjustment. And at this point now, I feel really comfortable and happy in the position. So it's been great.
I'm glad to hear that you've made that adjustment and are feeling more comfortable there now. So I have to admit, this next question is probably one of the more difficult questions that people get asked after they study abroad. And it's like, if you had to pick one of your memories or one of your things that you've done so far, that it stands out in your mind, what would you want to share?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think I have two answers to that. But the main one or the first one I would have would be when myself and a couple friends uh, decided to go to Barcelona, Spain, after our exams, and we did so, and it was great, a great city, and it also happened to be the World Cup final. And as we know, Messi played a lot in Barcelona, so the city was lively and exciting, and we were there for that, and that's a memory I won't ever forget. Spending time with friends and being able to experience that. And then the second one kind of ties back to the University of Guelph, as my friends were able to come over uh, for uh, their week off and come over and visit me and see what I'm doing and living and kind of my life over here. So that was also another incredible experience. But those two things are the two main ones that stick out to me, I would say.
Two very cool experiences. That'd be neat to be in Barcelona for the World Cup final.
Yeah, it was kind of not, I wouldn't say planned, but it worked out perfectly.
Nice. So final question here for you. What advice would you give to someone who is considering study abroad or considering doing a co-op term abroad?
Yeah, I think the main thing would be, it's actually in the question. If you're already considering or you're curious about it, that's all you really need to have in order to kind of start the journey. I would say if you have any kind of want or desire to do it, really look into it, get interested in it, look at all the resources that we have because it could be a life-changing experience. It could really make your degree at the University of Guelph.
Great answer. And as you're talking about fit and like seeing if it works for you, the CIP website has a lot of great resources, but also just come chat with us in our office. Like we're always happy to help students and kind of talk them through what they're thinking about and what options they might have. So don't hesitate to reach out. Well, that's all for today's episode of the Study Abroadcast. Don't forget to explore your own study abroad opportunities on the CIP website, uoguelph.ca/CIP, or follow us on Instagram. Our Instagram handle is CIP_Guelph. Thanks for listening, and thanks to Graham for sharing their advice, insights, and travel stories. Stay tuned for our next episode where we look to unpack the study abroad experience even further.